Hi everyone, welcome to my first video. Today we are going to talk a little bit about fundraising and specifically fundraising with individual donors. So I wanted to talk to you about this, and this is called the four-legged stool of fundraising. And again, fundraising overall looks at individual donations, it looks at grants, it looks at corporate and business donations. Lots of things go into fundraising. Today, we are going to specifically look at individual donors and how this four-legged stool of fundraising applies to individual donations. So let's go into it. So imagine a stool. If a stool had only two legs, it would be pretty wobbly. There wouldn't even really be any stability there. 3 legs makes it a little bit more stable. 4, the most stable it can be. The same principle applies in fundraising. You want revenue streams from many different areas, and even within each of those areas, take individual donors, for instance, you want different revenue streams within that subset as well. So, looking at the four-legged stool of fundraising for individual donors, we're going to see the donor here at the top, okay? And again, we are just remembering that this is individual donors that we're talking about. These individual donors have a number of different ways in which they can give to the organization. So probably the most common, and what you think of with individual donations, is going to be this annual fund. So this is the typical gift that we get around the holiday season from the appeal letter that we send out, or that person that sends in $20 every month just to help with our general operating costs and overall programs and day-to-day operations. So the annual fund, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're only contributing once annually, but it's usually going to be a smaller gift from an individual and given at a regular interval. So a lot of times it is once a year, sometimes it's more often than that. So when people are giving to this annual fund, it is usually coming out of their current income. So again, they're a little bit smaller gifts. It's not going to have a huge impact on their financial situation, and it's going to be taken out of cash usually that they have on hand. As I mentioned, it's going to ongoing programs and services. This isn't usually something for a new program, a new piece of equipment, things like that. This is just the day-to-day operations for our organization that are going to help sustain us. So that's our first leg of our four-legged stool of fundraising for individual donors. So that's one stream of revenue. The next one that we're going to look at is Major Gifts Program. And major gifts, as it implies, people are giving at a higher level, typically more than the annual fund. The amount can vary, so it really depends per organization what you label as an individual gift. Some organizations, it might be $1,000 and more. Some organizations, it might be $10,000 and more. It just really depends on the size of your organization and what your Major Gifts Program looks like. So with your Major Gifts Program, it can kind of come from two different funding sources for individuals. Sometimes a major gift is just coming from their cash on hand, their income. If that's possible, that's wonderful, and we greatly appreciate that, of course. A lot of times it's also going to come from an asset. So because it is a larger amount of giving, they may pull it from one of the assets that they have instead of cash readily available. So that's where the source of the money is going to come from for a major gift. It's going to go toward a special program or project. So typically people are not going to give a large amount of money as a donation without some sort of specific need. So maybe this is a new program that you're instituting at the organization. Maybe it's that we really need a new computer system or database, and you're doing a specific ask for that major piece of equipment or program or things like that. So it's more of a special program rather than just kind of the general operating for the organization. So that is our second leg in our four-legged stool of fundraising for individual donors. The third one is a capital campaign. So I think typically people think when they hear capital campaign, a new building, which a lot of times is true. Organizations are looking to move, they're looking to renovate, they're looking to expand, and a capital campaign is a great way in which to get some funding for that. It can also be things like an endowment for the organization. So you could run a capital campaign to start up an endowment that is then going to pay back your organization over years and years to have a steady stream of income. Those are a little bit trickier campaigns to run. One, because most of an endowment campaign is all coming from individual donors, whereas a lot of times if you are running a capital campaign for like a new building or equipment or things like that, a lot of times you can get corporate sponsors or foundation grants, things like that. Whereas with an endowment, foundations and businesses typically do not want to contribute to that. So again, these are going to be larger gifts, sometimes quite a bit larger than a major gift, and it's typically only coming out of a donor's asset pool because it is such a large amount. So that is our third leg, and our fourth and our final leg of our stool is planned giving. And this is, as the name implies, part of the estate planning for individuals. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be a huge amount that they are giving to the organization upon their death, rather that it's just looking at it as a different funding stream because it's not coming out of their current income, it's not coming out of their current assets. It is something in the future that they are planning for, and it could come from a very different revenue source for them. That could be a gift of real estate in the future, it could be a gift of a life insurance policy, a bequest, things like that. So it's just a little bit different way of looking at a gift. And so planned giving obviously comes from the estate planning, and the benefit, it could be for whatever. Sometimes in a bequest, people are just, they don't have a specific requirement that they want the money to go to. Other times they do, and it'll have donor restrictions within it. Typically you will know when you receive those funds whether it has donor restrictions or not. So anyway, that is our four-legged stool of fundraising for individual donors, and just a good way to kind of look at gifts that are coming in specific for individual donors and different ways in which to approach donors for income. Thanks.